We have to be stronger with the ball, and we weren't early. We were loose with the ball, and they punished us for it. Those things too are like they impacted our psyche as well. Like we just were deflated, and then it showed up on the defensive end as well.
Welcome back, Hawks fans. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Atlanta Hawks wrap up, and safe to say tonight's performance against the Minnesota Timberwolves was not a good one. Hawks lose 136-115. Shout out to my boy Matt Service, big Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Good win for his team tonight. I know they needed it, but it just wasn't good tonight from the guys. First half came out disconnected. Didn't seem like they were connected at all on defense. Offensively, just was not making shots. The only person tonight who came to play was Trae Young, 15 of 25, 41 points tonight, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, he did what he needed to do tonight. He played the way he needed to play tonight, but literally the next best player on this team was Onyeka Okongwu off the bench with 16 and 14. So he had a pretty good night for him. But outside of that, DeJounte only gave you 15. DeAndre was 5 of 15. John, we know about his struggles this year. Clint, 10 and 10, what you would expect from him, but just doesn't seem impactful. They only gave you 6 points tonight. Bogdanovich in his return tonight only gave you 2 points. Jalen Johnson had a lot of foul trouble in this game. Only played 10 minutes. Really didn't make much of an impact either. And it's one of those games that I feel like a lot of Hawks fans that I was seeing across the socials kind of just saying it kind of reminded them of the Atlanta Hawks between 2018 and 2020. When Trae Young was literally, scoring 30 a game, but they were still losing by 20 because they just didn't have enough talent. And for this team for what this team has now, it feels like that shouldn't be the case. Like they shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't be struggling this much. And it's tough, you just came off a game where you played Boston pretty well outside of one stretch of the game. That's literally the only stretch of the game the Hawks didn't play well in. And they were able to play them evenly the rest of the way. But alluding to that, that's been the main problem with this team, is that this team under the Nate McMillan era has been so inconsistent for 2 years. Honestly, if you remember the Eastern Conference Finals run, they were also inconsistent there too. They were just able to play more good basketball than inconsistent basketball. But it feels like ever since that next year when he fully got his people in and everything, they have just been the model of inconsistency. And I think when you've been inconsistent for so long and you develop bad habits for so long, it's just not something Snyder can fix through the rest of this season. He can help things be better. He can help things improve. He can implement things that can maybe ease the stress on certain things and everything like that. But he ain't going to fix the actual problem because some of the problem is personnel. And so that's something you can't fix till you make changes. You can only do so much. Literally tonight, the biggest issue reared its ugly head for the Hawks again. Minnesota scored 136 points on basically 60% shooting 44% from 3. The Hawks literally have been walking turnstiles the last few games. They literally just no defense tonight. Minnesota had 39 assists as a team compared to the Hawks 17. That's not good at all. Hawks killed them on the boards. They had 51-37, but it didn't matter because everything else Minnesota did better than them. Minnesota had 10 blocks. Minnesota had 12 steals. They were able to create turnovers on this team. You can't win like that. Boston, they let up 134 points. Right? That's 2 straight games of 130. Then the Heat, they let up 130 points. Then the next game before that, 117. Wizards, 116. And I'm going back through all the losses. Knicks, 122. Hornets, 144. You see when the Hawks lose, they're basically letting teams score 100 and 20 plus. You can't win like that in today's NBA. Every team can score. But if you're letting up 120 points consistently, you're not going to win. And that's the biggest issues the Hawks have is defense. DeJounte Murray has struggled on ball. And I think personally, it's a weird thing, but I think DeJounte is a little miscast. Think about it. In San Antonio, I see people talk about why is DeJounte not like he was in San Antonio. What was DeJounte Murray in San Antonio? Point guard. He was good. He
Had one against Minnesota late that Rudy needed to throw up out of there. Dinwiddie ended up getting a late layup that hurt us. He can do that.
He was guarding
for Popovich last season in San Antonio.
Hawks are in the game.
In this system,
he's the tax next year's hand.
So he's guarding shooting. Or sometimes
this has been a solid J-Mac game.
Not what
Anderson. Oh, beautiful move. Oh.
So the issue is that now
we had to see this.
Sometimes
Kyle Anderson drink shake right there.
Good.
Like that should be effective.
Around the Gobert screen.
DeJounte Murray
His pass was deflected. Gobert puts it in.
Anthony Edwards off of staggers. Mike Conley was setting a screen.
What do you expect against guys like
McDaniels on the backside, but it ends up in Kyle's hand, who makes something happen with Rudy Gobert. Ball screen action. Great play, great finish. Free throw by Rudy Gobert when we come back after the break.
People are disappointed in what DeJounte's been doing defensively because of the miscast there. But also, you know, Trey is not even really getting attacked anymore on defense because Trey's playing much more, like he's playing much more solid on defense. There's more effort. And so you're seeing that. And so, you know, I don't think DeJounte, in saying that though, is the core problem with this team. He's not. There's other issues. I've said this all season. I just think the way this roster is constructed, it's not constructed to be a good defensive team. You got Shanique Bey. Bey is great offensively, but he's not good at all defensively. So if Bey's not hitting shots, Bey's kind of a negative player on the floor for you because he's not a great defender, and that's the problem. The issue is the Hawks last year and this year have had to play that same brand of basketball where they have to score a bunch of points, or else they probably won't win the game. Because the Hawks have not shown barely at all during these last couple of years that they can make a team score around 100 and they can score 102 and win. When the Hawks lose, they're letting up a lot of points when they lose. So the Hawks have to play really well offensively to beat these teams. But you can't do track meets every game to beat the great teams. Milwaukee has the ability to just lock in and shut you down offensively because of their defense. Boston has the ability to lock in and shut you down offensively because of their defense. Even Philadelphia at times has the ability to lock down and shut you down defensively at times. The Hawks really don't have that ability. You know, obviously there's stretches and runs where the Hawks have had played really good defense. But in terms of a consistency standpoint, they don't consistently at all. And it shows its head in games like this against Minnesota. So there's issues that have to be addressed. Snyder can only do so much of what's happening. I know some people are going to sit here and try to say Snyder's just not a good coach, or maybe he's not as good as we think. The thing is that you can't say that because, again, he doesn't have his coaching staff. And in a way, he still doesn't technically have his players. This season is also still technically a tryout for next year for guys. Because Snyder has power. Snyder has some basketball decision-making power. So he can just go to Landry, he can go to Kyle, he can go to Tony and be like, listen, I think we need to move so-and-so and we need to get this if this team's going to be what y'all want it to be. So it's kind of funny, basically. We're trying to just see how this season ends. But literally next year and going into the offseason, there's still going to be more changes to come. Because clearly there's some personnel issues with this team. And, you know, like I said, Snyder knows the issues defensively. He says it every game, overhelping, letting teams get into the paint on us. Sometimes miscommunication. That's tough. And listen, I don't know if some of it could be he runs a complex defensive system, and so that makes it hard for guys to be able to react. Because basically, he hasn't had a training camp in all this time to get the guys integrated and then go out there and try to play it and execute it. He's trying to implement while also playing to make the playoffs and get up or keep your seed in the playoffs. That's such a different situation. Like, people really don't understand. Like, this is the reason why we have all the practices and the training camps and the build up, because you want to try to do things and then get them used to it, and then go play it in game situation. You're trying to implement things that they're trying to learn while also playing against real NBA teams, trying to also make the playoffs, And so it's easy for a team like that to, since they haven't gotten it like just nailed down in their heads, to then go back to revert back to things that killed them before. Miscommunication, overhelping, because it's not something that's ingrained in them. They're trying to learn it, but it's easy once you get punched in the mouth to not go back to revert back to the bad habits. And so I think that's what happened tonight. And I think that's just the biggest issue the last 2 games is that you can't let a team score 130 plus and you expect to win those games. That, if you think about the Charlotte losses this year, Charlotte scored, I think, 130 plus on this team twice. They're one of the worst teams in the association. So clearly when the Hawks lose games like that, it's because their defense is completely non-existent in those games. So if they're not coming out there lighting the basket on fire, this team has a hard time winning. And that's just ultimately the biggest issue with this team. And we're going to have to see what happens. They get 3 days off between now and Golden State on Friday. So that's 3 days to rest. Remember, the Hawks have played 4 games in 6 days. That is tough. You know, I don't want to give them an excuse, but that's tough. You know, try playing 4 NBA games in 6 days and tell me how you feel. But hopefully they get their legs back, and then hopefully they just are able to figure out what they need to do. Because listen, this is the worst part of the season to get a losing streak started. Golden State's coming in here with Steph Curry. Hawks didn't even play him the first time. He's coming in here to Atlanta this Friday. You're at home, so you at least don't have to travel anywhere. You pretty much can wake up the next day and get to work. So we're going to have to see what happens with this team. Because like I said, performance was not good tonight. Played better in the second half, but realistically, it doesn't make a difference if first half you're just not able to, you know, put out the effort that's necessary to win a game like this. So we're going to have to see what happens, man. It was a very disappointing loss tonight. But like I said, they have a chance to bounce back Friday against Golden State. And hopefully they can. Hopefully, like I said, they can play better. And hopefully come out with their butts on fire a little bit more on that game as well. So we're going to have to see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, that's really all I got for you guys. This is your Atlanta Hawks wrap up. I'll see you next time.